Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, where did all the years go? One moment you're young and full of energy, chasing dreams and passions. The next, your reflection shows a face lined with experience, wisdom, and perhaps a few regrets. But what if I told you that growing older isn't about fading away, but about becoming stronger, wiser, and more at peace than ever before? Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, left behind lessons that can change the way you live the years ahead. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, I promise it might just change your love life, your happiness, and the way you see the world. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps bring Stoic wisdom to more people who need it. Now let's explore 10 powerful lessons from Marcus Aurelius that every older man must hear. 1. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that just thinking about them made your heart race? Maybe it was your wife, your first love, or the one that got away. Do you remember the way she looked at you when you made her laugh? The way your hands fit perfectly together? But what happens when life changes? Maybe she drifted away. Maybe arguments became more frequent and silence replaced laughter. Maybe she's no longer here. And you find yourself staring at an empty chair, longing for the warmth that once filled it. Loss, whether through time, distance, or fate, is something we all face. And when it happens, it's easy to feel powerless. Like life is playing a cruel joke on us. We replay memories, questioning every decision, every word left unsaid. This is where Marcus Aurelius gives us one of the most powerful lessons. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You see, life will always be unpredictable. People will change, circumstances will shift. But here's the truth no one tells you: your suffering doesn't come from the loss itself. It comes from how you think about it. Think about it. If you only focus on what's gone, you'll stay trapped in pain. But what if instead you focused on what love taught you? On the moments you shared, on the depth it gave your soul? A man once told me about his wife of 40 years. When she passed away, he felt like life had lost its meaning. He spent months drowning in grief, replaying every moment, every mistake. Until one day he realized his pain wasn't because she was gone. It was because he was holding on to what he couldn't control. So he made a choice. Instead of mourning her absence, he honored her memory. He laughed at the jokes she once told. He carried her kindness forward. And he chose to live as if she were watching, proud of the man he still was. This is the power of your mind. You can't control who stays or who leaves, but you can control how you carry them in your heart. Now tell me, who is that one person you'll always carry with you? Let me know in the comments. Because the way you choose to remember them, that's where your true strength lies. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Have you ever sat alone at night staring at the ceiling, thinking about the kind of man you used to be? Maybe in your younger years, you were the kind of man who made promises. Promises to your wife, to your kids, to yourself. Promises to always be there, to always protect, to always do what's right. But life has a way of testing us, doesn't it? Maybe you got caught up in work, thinking you were providing, only to realize you were missing out on the very moments that mattered. Maybe you had an argument with someone you love, and now the silence between you is louder than words. Maybe you lost someone you love, and you wonder if you were truly the man they believed you to be. It's easy to sit and think, what makes a good man? But Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. There was a man, let's call him Robert. He was 65, retired, and often sat in his living room, staring at old photo albums. One picture always got to him, a younger version of himself, standing beside his wife on their wedding day. He remembered the vows he made, to love, to cherish, to always be there. But somewhere along the way, life had distracted him. Regret started eating at him. He thought about all the times he chose work over dinner with his family. All the times he let pride stop him from saying, I'm sorry. But then one day something changed. He realized that thinking about what he should have done wasn't going to fix anything. The only thing that mattered was what he did next. So he got up. He picked up the phone. He called his daughter, the one he hadn't spoken to in years. He went to his wife, looked her in the eyes, and told her something he hadn't said in a long time. I love you. Because at the end of the day, a good man isn't defined by the mistakes he made. He's defined by the choices he makes right now. So tell me, who is the person in your life that you need to reach out to? The one who still matters even after all these years? Let me know in the comments, because today is the day you stop thinking about being a good man and start being one. French death smiles at us all. All we can do is smile back. Have you ever held someone's hand, knowing it might be the last time? Maybe it was your wife lying beside you one evening, her breath slow and steady as she drifted off to sleep. Maybe it was your father, his hands rough but familiar, the same hands that once lifted you onto his shoulders when you were a boy. Maybe it was your best friend, the one who always had your back, even when the world didn't. If you've ever experienced that moment, the realization that time is running out, the feeling, that ache in your chest, that wish for just one more day, one more conversation, one more chance to say what was left unsaid. Marcus Aurelius understood this feeling. He knew that no matter how powerful, how wealthy, or how loved a man is, death comes for us all. But instead of fearing it, he gave us this advice. Death smiles at us all. All we can do is smile back. There was an old man named Thomas. He had been married for 50 years to the love of his life, Margaret. Their love was the kind that people wrote stories about, simple, steady, and real. Every morning he made her coffee just the way she liked it. Every evening they sat on the porch, watching the sunset together, even when words weren't needed. But one day she was gone, just like that. At first, Thomas couldn't accept it. He spent weeks sitting in silence, replaying memories in his mind. He regretted every argument. Every moment he was too distracted to notice the way she looked at him with love. He wished he had held her a little longer, laughed a little more, told her every single day how much she meant to him. Then one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he found himself sitting on that same porch alone. And in that moment he made a decision. He would not live his remaining days in sorrow. Instead, he would honor her. He would smile back at life just as she would have wanted him to. He would carry her love in everything he did. Death is not the enemy. Regret is. So tell me, if today was your last day, would you be proud of the way you loved? Would the people who matter most know what they mean to you? If not, what are you waiting for? It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Have you ever had your heart broken? Maybe it was years ago, or maybe it was just yesterday. Maybe you loved someone so deeply, so completely, that you thought nothing could break that bond. But then life happened. Maybe she walked away. Maybe the love you once shared slowly faded, replaced by silence, by distance, by words left unspoken. And now when you think about it, there's a weight in your chest, a feeling that you lost something you'll never get back. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, knew this pain. He knew that life would always bring suffering, loss, and heartbreak. But he also knew something most people never realize. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Let me tell you a story about a man named William. He was in his late 60s, and for most of his life, he had one great love, his wife, Eleanor. They had been through everything together. The highs, the lows, the fights, the laughter. She was his best friend, his home. Then one day she was gone. A sudden illness took her, leaving William alone in a house that now felt too big, too quiet. He spent weeks drowning in sorrow, replaying every moment, every mistake. He stopped eating properly. He stopped going out. His children worried about him. One evening his grandson came to visit. The boy sat beside him and asked, "Grandpa, do you think Grandma would want you to be sad forever?" William didn't answer. He just stared at the old rocking chair where Eleanor used to sit. That night he thought about Marcus Aurelius's words. He realized something important. His pain wasn't because of what happened to him. It was because he was holding on to it, refusing to let go. He couldn't change the past, but he could choose how he lived the days ahead. So he got up the next morning and made a choice. He started taking walks again. He began telling stories about Eleanor, not with sadness, but with gratitude. He chose to honor her by living, not by suffering. Life will hurt you. Love will break you. But remember this, you always have a choice. So tell me, what pain are you holding on to? And when will you finally choose to let it go? For look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will look. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt lost? Like the man you once were, the man full of dreams, passion, and love is slipping away? Maybe you were once the guy who had it all together. You worked hard, built a life, and loved deeply. But as the years passed, things changed. Maybe your children grew up and didn't need you as much anymore. Maybe the love of your life is no longer beside you. Maybe you sit in a quiet house, staring at old photographs, wondering where that strong, confident man went. It happens to all of us. Life shifts and suddenly you feel like a stranger to yourself. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us of something powerful. Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength, which will always spring up if you will look. Let me tell you about a man named Richard. Richard had been married for 45 years. His wife Anne was his world. She was the one who reminded him to take his vitamins, the one who laughed at his terrible jokes, the one who held his hand even when words weren't needed. Then one day she was gone, and with her it felt like Richard's strength was gone too. He stopped going out, stopped doing the things he once loved. He convinced himself that without her, he was just an old man waiting for time to pass. Then one day his daughter sat beside him and handed him a letter. It was from Anne. She had written it months before she passed, knowing he would need it. It said, "My love, you have always been stronger than you realize. I know right now the world feels empty, but please promise me you won't forget who you are. You are not just my husband. You are a father, a friend, a man who has so much love left to give. Keep living. Keep loving, because that's what we were always meant to do." Tears filled his eyes, but something changed that day. He realized that his strength didn't come from others, it had always been inside him. And you, my friend, have that same strength. No matter what you've lost, no matter what you've been through, there is a fire inside you that will never go out. So tell me, when was the last time you looked inside yourself and truly saw the man you still are? 6. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Have you ever caught yourself sitting alone, lost in thought, replaying old memories like a movie in your mind? Maybe you remember the way she used to smile at you, the way her hand felt in yours, the sound of her laughter filling the room. But then the good memories fade and the regrets take over. You start thinking about the times you argued, the things you should have said, the moments you let slip away, and just like that, your heart feels heavy, your mood darkens, and the happiness you once felt disappears.
Why does this happen?
Because, as Marcus Aurelius tells us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Let me share a story about a man named Joseph. Joseph had been married for over 40 years to his wife, Linda. She was his best friend, his rock, the woman who saw him through every struggle and success. But when she passed away, Joseph felt like he had lost a part of himself. At first, he found comfort in their memories. He smiled when he thought about their first dance, their late-night talks, the way she would nudge him when he snored too loudly. But over time, his thoughts started to change. Instead of remembering the love they shared, he started focusing on what he had lost. He thought about the times he was too busy to sit with her, the times he was stubborn and didn't apologize, the things he wished he could go back and change. And the more he let these thoughts take over, the more miserable he became. Then one day, his grandson asked him, "Grandpa, if Grandma could talk to you right now, do you think she'd want you to be sad?" That question changed everything. Joseph realized that his thoughts were shaping his reality. If he focused only on regret and loss, he would never find peace. But if he chose to remember the love, the laughter and the joy they shared, he could carry her with him not as pain but as warmth. And so he made a choice. Every time a painful memory crept in, he replaced it with a happy one. He rewired his mind to focus on gratitude, not grief. And in doing so, he found happiness again. So tell me, what thoughts are you choosing to hold on to? And are they bringing you peace or stealing it from you? And do every act of your life as if it were your last. If you knew that today was your last day, would you live it differently? Would you finally tell the woman you love how much she means to you? Would you call your children just to hear their voices? Would you sit on that old porch, watching the sunset with the same awe you once had as a young man in love? Or would you spend it the same way you've spent so many others, waiting, overthinking, postponing the things that truly matter? Marcus Aurelius left us with a powerful reminder. Do every act of your life as if it were your last. Let me tell you a story about a man named Henry. Henry had been married to his wife Clara for 50 years. She was the love of his life, the one who made his house a home, the one who knew all his stories, the one who could calm him with just a look. But like many men, Henry fell into the trap of routine. He assumed there would always be time to take her dancing like they used to, time to write her love letters like he once did, time to sit beside her and simply be present. But time is never promised. One evening, Clara fell ill, and just like that, everything changed. Henry found himself sitting beside her hospital bed, holding her hand, realizing how much he had taken for granted. He thought of all the times he was too busy, all the times he let his pride win instead of saying, "I love you." She looked at him with tired eyes and whispered, "We had a beautiful life, didn't we?" Henry choked back tears and nodded, but deep inside he wished he had loved her louder. Clara passed away that night, and Henry made a vow. He would never waste another moment. He would tell people what they meant to him. He would live with no regrets. Because love, time, and life itself are fleeting. So let me ask you, if today was your last day, would the people you love know they are loved? Would you leave behind a heart full of regrets or one full of beautiful, irreplaceable moments? Don't wait. Love fully. Live completely. Because one day time will run out, and when it does, make sure your heart has nothing left unsaid. 8. The best revenge is to be unlike the one who did you wrong. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved? Maybe it was a woman you gave your heart to, the one you trusted with everything only for her to walk away, leaving you shattered. Maybe it was a friend who turned their back on you when you needed them most. Or maybe it was a family member, someone you never imagined would hurt you, but they did. And now when you think about them, you feel that sting of betrayal all over again. You replay the conversations, the lies, the broken promises. A part of you wants to show them what it feels like to make them hurt the way they hurt you. But Marcus Aurelius gives us a different perspective. The best revenge is to be unlike the one who did you wrong. Let me tell you about a man named Daniel. Daniel had been married for 30 years. He loved his wife deeply, or at least he thought she felt the same. But one day he discovered the truth: she had been unfaithful. The woman he had built a life with, the woman he had trusted, had betrayed him. At first, anger consumed him. He wanted to make her feel the same pain he was feeling. He wanted to say things he knew he could never take back. He wanted revenge. But then one evening, he came across a letter his father had written to him years ago. It said, "Son, life will give you two choices. Let bitterness destroy you, or let strength define you. If someone wrongs you, do not become like them. Instead, become better." Daniel realized something in that moment. His wife had already taken so much from him. His trust, his peace, his love. But he refused to let her take the most important thing: his character. So instead of seeking revenge, he chose to move forward. He chose dignity over anger, self-respect over hate. And in doing so, he reclaimed his own power. You see, revenge doesn't heal. It only keeps you tied to the past. True strength comes from rising above, from proving that no betrayal can turn you into something you're not. So tell me, who is the person that hurt you? And will you let them define you, or will you rise above? 9. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. How many times have you let something completely out of your control ruin your day? Maybe it was a harsh word from someone you love. Maybe it was a memory from the past that sneaked into your mind and wouldn't let go. Or maybe it was something as small as a stranger being rude to you. Yet you carried that frustration with you for hours, even days. But have you ever stopped to wonder, why do we give so much power to things we can't control? Marcus Aurelius gives us a reminder, one that can change your life if you truly embrace it. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Let me tell you about a man named Edward. Edward had been married for 40 years to the love of his life, Susan. They built a life together, raised a family, and made beautiful memories. But like every marriage, they had their arguments, small ones, big ones, moments of silence that lasted longer than they should have. One evening, after a silly argument about nothing important, Susan went to bed upset. Edward thought, "I'll apologize in the morning." But morning never came for Susan. Edward was left alone with nothing but regret. He couldn't change what happened. He couldn't go back in time and tell her, "I love you. I'm sorry." And for years, he let that regret consume him. He let it define him. Then one day, his grandson sat beside him and asked, "Grandpa, do you think Grandma would want you to be sad forever?" Edward sat in silence. He realized something. He had no control over the past, but he had control over the way he chose to live now. So he made a decision. He forgave himself. He started telling the people in his life how much he loved them. Every single day, he focused on the things he could control: his thoughts, his actions, his love. And in that, he found peace. So tell me, what is something you're holding on to? What pain, what anger, what regret is keeping you from living fully? And when will you finally realize you have the power to let it go? 10. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Have you ever found yourself looking back on your life and wondering, was I the man I was meant to be? Maybe you were a husband who tried his best. But sometimes work, stress, or pride got in the way of truly showing your love. Maybe you were a father who wanted to be there more, but time slipped through your fingers. Or maybe you were simply a man trying to do right by the people around you. Yet deep down you still wonder if you did enough. Marcus Aurelius gives us a simple but powerful truth. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Let me tell you a story about a man named Samuel. Samuel had been married to his wife Elizabeth for nearly 5 decades. Through every struggle, every joy, every storm, she was there beside him. But like many men, he always thought he had more time. He spent years saying, one day, I'll take her on that trip she always dreamed of. One day I'll write her that love letter she deserves. One day I'll sit with her for hours just listening, just being present. But one day never came. Elizabeth fell ill, and before Samuel knew it, she was gone. The night after her funeral, he sat alone at the kitchen table, the same table where she used to laugh, where she used to sip her tea, where she used to reach for his hand when she had nothing else to say. And he realized he had spent too much time thinking about being a good husband, instead of simply being one. From that day forward, Samuel made a promise. He couldn't change the past, but he could honor Elizabeth by being the man she always believed he was. He became more present for his children, more patient with his friends, more kind to strangers. Because being a good man isn't about waiting for the perfect moment, it's about choosing every single day to show up with love, with integrity, with purpose. So tell me, what kind of man do you want to be remembered as? And when will you stop thinking about it and start living it? So there you have it, 10 powerful lessons from Marcus Aurelius that every older man should hear. Wisdom isn't about how many years you've lived. It's about how you choose to live the years you have left. If this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments which lesson stood out the most. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more life-changing Stoic wisdom. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.